Welcome back to part 2 of the EBMX V3 video for my Ultra B. So I've done some testing over the past few weeks on some motocross stuff. I'm going to show you some footage of that here soon. But everything's been going pretty well. There are a few quirks that I've noticed that I'll talk about today. I'm just going to give you my overall impressions of how it's functioning. I'm going to make some adjustments, try to find that sweet spot. If you watch part 1 of this video, you'll know that I was kind of hoping to find somewhere between on the OEM controller, D and Sport, just kind of for my daily ride with a little bit of bump to get over, quick little obstacles or just get up a bigger hill. I also want a really chill eco mode that I want to put on the bike. So today, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this bike. I'm going to be adjusting things as I ride, try to figure out the best maps for it. This will all change as I keep riding the bike, but this is kind of a first impressions thing for trail riding, and I think this is where this controller is really going to shine. But before we jump into the trail riding portion of this video, I'm going to show you some GoPro footage from the track the other day. Just some GoPro footage with some voiceover, so let's watch that now. Welcome back to part 2 of the EBMX install and review video. This is me riding at Motoland MX in central Arizona. I did a few warm-up laps before this, went in, got some water, and went back out and started filming this. So currently the bike is at 17 kilowatts. That's as high as you can set it for the OEM battery and motor. I'm also running the Cirrus Trail Tune Medium setup. It's definitely not designed for motocross, and I have it almost all the way in on the compression settings. But yeah, I think I'm like 3 clicks out on the forks for the compression, and I'm 1 click out on the shock, and I think my rebound is 2 clicks softer, so 2 clicks in from the base setting, both front and rear. Actually does pretty well on the track. I definitely bottom out in a few areas, but a lot of that is just me over jumping, and it just is warranted because of that. It was actually really awesome riding with 17 kilowatts on this bike after being used to it being 12.5 kilowatts. I could definitely tell out of corners that it was a lot more snappy. I had a lot more speed available coming up to jumps, but the downside that I noticed with 17 kilowatts is that it actually wasn't all that sustainable on the bike. When I did my sight laps, I had it in more of a mellow throttle map, but check out right here what happens. Coming up to this jump and just completely lose power on the face of it. I really didn't know what was going on at first, and now that I review the footage, I realized that I had an overheating warning going on my screen for most of the footage here when I was in 17 kilowatts. So the screen completely shuts off on me. I just come to a stop. Before the screen shut off, I actually did see the overheating warning, and then it just went blank. And just put it back in ready mode, making sure it's okay, bike's moving forward. Here's the second time it happens. Lose power, going up the face of the jump, completely shuts off. And at this point it clicks for me. I realize that, okay, I think I'm overheating the bike. I was actually talking to Tucker from ECR, and he mentioned that it's more sustainable to get 15 kilowatts out of this bike versus 17 when you have this configuration with the OEM motor. And at this point, it all kind of started clicking, and I realized, okay, yeah, that's definitely what's going on. I'm going to go back to the pits. I'm going to change that setting and then do testing from there. And this is at 15 kilowatts. I will say that it was a little disappointing just because, yeah, you can tell the difference between 2 kilowatts for sure when you're dealing with, 17 to 15. It still could do everything on the track that I needed. It was, a little less torquey, that's for sure. But it still made its way around the track, and I could tell that it was a lot more fun than 12.5 kilowatts was with the stock controller. And after watching back footage on this, the overheating warning really isn't happening all that much. The only time I really see it is just before the triple on the back, and you're basically holding the bike, 50 miles per hour with that gearing, which is nearly wide open. Let's see if it turns on right here. Yep. Just right on the lip of that, it turned on. The question is, would I recommend this to someone who's on a 24 Ultra B and they want to make the jump to have more of a motocross type setup? I mean, realistically, I'm on a trail bike here, right? It's a better amount of power, but it's not like a motocross level of power that you're getting out of this bike with the stock motor in the bike. I would say if you're going to want to do like a higher power build, this is not the answer for it, but for me, it actually kind of solves my problem. If you watch my part 1 video of this, my real need is just having a little bump on the moto track. I just wanted a little bit more power, a little bit more playful of a feel, just something that could clear these jumps a little bit more easily rather than stretching them out and seat bouncing so many things. I definitely got a bump in power, and I'm a lot more happy with the bike. And I think I'm most excited to test this bike out on the trail. That's realistically what the bike is built for. This is kind of the occasional riding scenario for me where I just want to go ride some laps, do some jumps, set the bike a little bit out of its typical comfort zone, I would say. But yeah, had a lot of fun with it. All right, and now we're gonna dive into the trail riding portion of this video. This is what I'm most excited about. This is what this bike is ultimately built for. It's not totally a motocross bike, as you heard in the video there. And just really excited to try it out and dial it in and just know that I can fine tune every single thing that I want on this controller. All right, I just started the ride. I've been trying to set the bike in eco mode, but it just seems like it has way too much power, and look what's happening now. This was happening this morning when I put the battery in, and now that's happening now to me. So I suppose I disconnect the battery and see if that resolves it. But yeah, I've been trying to set the bike to just like 5 kilowatts, but it's still just like ripping around and popping wheelies. So it's clearly not taking what I'm giving it for inputs. Yeah, this is concerning. Like right off the bat, first trail ride, I will say that this is like super concerning. So power down. And we're gonna unplug the battery quick, I guess, and see if that helps it out. Okay. Key on. All right, showing 90%. Like there's no way I can lift my wheel like that if I'm only in 3 kilowatts. It keeps defaulting me back to race mode. And now I said mode before reboot. I'm just gonna put it to street just to like override it, I guess, right now. And I go back here. I feel like it does that. I feel like it doesn't actually go back to the mode it's supposed to be in. Okay, now we should be in street and 3 kilowatts, like with very low phase current. Let's see. Like that's not 3 kilowatts. It's fun, but it's not what it's supposed to be. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty bummed about this thing already. So I've had a few glitches already. So here are the few things. Right before I started riding this, I got this error. I've had it before on the OEM controller, like once or twice when I've really rocked it over jumping something. But it's basically just showing that my battery's at 0%. It has the little like gas can fill up kind of blinking thing. And then it has some bars that are flashing. Like I said, I've had it happen before on the OEM controller, but I've had it happen probably at least 25% of the times since getting this new controller. So that's been kind of weird. And then I just have to like disconnect it and make sure that it works properly. Usually it only happens right when I put the battery in though. And today on the ride, it was fine. And then it started doing that. So that's one issue that I've had pretty consistently with this so far. The other thing that's weird is that right when I put the battery in the morning, sometimes I want to walk my bike up on the hitch carrier. And so I put it in ready mode and I get ready to roll it. But what happens is like the throttle voltage is different right away when I put the battery in than it is after it settles down for like a minute. Right in the morning it does that. That's fine. Not sure what that is. So say right now, if I were to calibrate the throttle, it would go from 0 to like 4 point something. But in the morning, it has a different voltage right away. Like I tested the throttle right in the morning when I put the battery in one time, and it was like 0.81 up to that same, 4 point whatever mark. So I don't know what that is, if it's just like putting the battery in and things have to settle, but that's super strange. That never happened on the OEM controller. And it's kind of annoying because, like I want to just wheel my bike up on the back of the hitch carrier and use eco mode to do it. So yeah, not really sure here. I'm going to see if I can keep figuring this out. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty disappointed in this process, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I mean, I'm switching between race and eco. I think what's tricky here is like, maybe that switch between the two modes just isn't that seamless with the bike. Maybe it doesn't catch that as much, but if you're gonna force me to use all the OEM display and controls on the bike and you're not going to give me a way to switch between those two modes on the bike, then it has to be pretty bomber in the app, you know? But the fact that it's not doing that properly, and I assume it's just feeding me my race settings, which would be 15 kilowatts right now. And yeah, that's just too much power for what I'm trying to do out here. Yeah, I'm gonna keep playing with it here and see if I can figure it out. All right, here we go again. I'm gonna kill the app. Power the bike on. And let's go back into the app. Okay. Yeah, it knows immediately, like when I'm in ready mode and things like that. And look, it just keeps defaulting to race here, which is weird because I've set it mode after start, street, and it just doesn't do it. It just does not go to that. Mode before reboot, street. I just want it to be street right now. Yeah, so 15, 15, 17. I fully believe that it just keeps putting me in race mode. Let's see here. So I'm gonna go back, and this is where I can change those modes. So let's go into here. Okay. So I'm in street. Okay, you can switch that way. Go back. Yeah, it just keeps going to race, I think. What's interesting is, check this out. It shows street mode right here. It shows that I'm in street. And then as soon as I hit expand, it shows that I'm in race. And that kind of makes sense. It's just like it will not let me go into street mode. Like, am I missing something here? Because this is weird, right? It just doesn't let me go to street. And you might be saying, well, why don't you just input your settings into race mode? Well, I don't want to do that. I want to make it so, yeah, just did a little refresh. I don't want to input my race settings to be my trail settings. I want to be like race mode is my track stuff. And as soon as I get to the trails, I just hit a button and I'm back to street. I don't want to adjust all those parameters every single time I come out. So this is this street now? Let's see. Nope, just still showing race. Really interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting that it won't do this. And I mean, I guess at this point I should just like go enjoy the ride and put it in race mode and adjust it how I see fit. I guess that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in 3. I'm going to put it in, let's say 10. And I'm going to put it in 13 to start. And I'm going to adjust the phase current a little bit to mellow it out. Mode after start, let's just say race because it doesn't want to do anything else. And then I'll go back here and it's in race mode. So, okay, let's see if that actually holds this time. 100%, that's 3 kilowatts, you know? Barely anything. Barely enough power to even move me. It lays it down. The power is really nice still. It's kind of fun to do this thing slow. I usually go up this faster. You know, I will say, like, how it feels when you're riding it, if it's actually functioning properly, is really great. But yeah, it's just not quite doing the right steps. So, power modes, race. I got to turn up my phase current on that one. I'm going to turn up my phase current on this one too. And then let's go up to, let's just set it to maybe 6 kilowatts for eco. So 6, 10, 13. And I'm just going to adjust my phase current so it's a little bit higher so I actually get all that power out of it. Field weakening is set to, I believe, 35% right now. I think that's where it defaults at. I'm in daily. It's pretty mellow, but it's like a fun amount. That was fun. I've actually never been up here. Let's see what eco mode's like now. Super mellow. Just like a hold it wide open and go down the road kind of speed. Yeah, it's even more tamed down right now than it is on the OEM controller, so. All right. Okay, so I've been trying to play around with it, and this is really interesting. So, first of all, if you go into peripherals and profiles and stand sensor is on, I'm gonna start there. That's where it was to begin with. Check this out. So I'm sitting off the bike, clearly. I have the kickstand down on the bike. And if I go here, and look what I can do. When the kickstand's down, I can put it in street mode. And when I do this, it still shows street. It wasn't doing that before. When I did this before, if I had it in street, if I switched it over to that, as soon as I would turn it sideways with this button, it would go back to race. But check this out. As soon as I put this kickstand up, whether the stand sensor is enabled or not, it switches the bike over to race mode, and then I'm locked in that. So I've tried it, like I said, I've tried it both ways. I tried it with the stand sensor on and off. I'm not sure if you would disconnect this sensor, if that would solve the issue, but yeah, I don't know, man. Not really sure what to think about that. Okay, Nate from the future here. So it's been about 2 weeks since I filmed that video. As you can tell in the video, I'm a little discouraged by it. I basically was just like, I'm gonna end the ride here. This isn't worth me testing it more because it's not doing the one function that I need it to do. And I stand behind that. But since then, I talked to EBMX, so I emailed them, tech support, a few other people on that email as well. I actually shared the first part of this video that you just saw with them at that time. I wanted to make sure they knew, hey, I did this testing, this came up, I want to be transparent about it. I'm not, out here to bash any brands. I also understand that it's a controller. It is an extremely complex device and it's easy to make mistakes, and I wanted to just clear a few things up. And I actually did. So 2 of those things are things that I could actually help control, and one of the things is something that I'm just waiting on them to resolve. So issue 1, the throttle. What's up with the throttle thing? Why is it doing that kind of voltage change in the morning? Basically what EBMX said is that Surron had a big batch of throttles that were bad. The voltage should not read the way it did. I assume that my throttle is in that batch. So what I did is I went on Surron Canada, I ordered a new throttle. I do not have it yet. I have no confirmation if that's going to completely resolve the issue, but I do believe that it probably will. That is something that, let's just cross it from, any blame toward EBMX. That's not their issue. That's a Surron thing. I think that's always good to remember here, is that there are things that are going wrong that don't have anything to do with the controller. It's more the things that are on the bike plugging into it. So the throttle, that's not an EBMX thing. That's a me thing. That's a Surron thing. That's something I'm resolving, and I think that should fix that issue. The second thing I want to talk about is the BMS communication drop deal. So you saw it in the video there. It was kind of strange that it happened on the smooth part of the trail. That hasn't happened really before. It's happened after big hits, and I can understand that, how it just briefly lose communication and then it just shows 0 and it doesn't regain that. That has happened on the OEM controller very rarely. It's happened a lot more lately. Who's to say if it's something that's going on with the EBMX or it's just a communication cable thing? I'm going to also just say that that's removed from the EBMX side of all of this. That's something I'm going to work on my own. One thing I did order, you probably have seen these on ECR. Basically what you do is inflate it and it takes up room in your battery compartment, holds the battery more still. That's one solution that I'm putting toward this, is I'm going to put one of those in there. I'm going to also really check my connectors, make sure that everything is super solid. I'm going to do tests with that. It's not that big of a deal if your bike does that. It's just a loss of communication briefly, and then it kind of loses it on the display. But like everything is still functioning at that moment. And to reconnect, you know, it's basically like turn the bike off, disconnect the battery, reconnect the battery in the right order, and everything should be fine. So that's something I'm going to work on and test. The last thing is the whole like not being able to go into street mode. One thing I do want to say about it is that it actually was not the kickstand that was causing that. It was actually the kill switch. So when you see in the video where it goes from race, or from street rather, to race as soon as I put the kickstand up, that's all dictated by the kill switch button. So I figured that out after the fact. Basically how that works is like that kill switch is connected to the kickstand basically. So yeah, it was interconnected. It wasn't really the kickstand, it was more the kill switch. I want to clear that up. So after talking with him about it, it's not something that we could resolve through communication. It's something they're going to try to recreate and put in the new app update. I'm actually waiting on the update right now, and I have no idea if it's actually going to clear that issue or not. I think we're a few days away. I saw Jared post in the Facebook group that it was coming out this week, the time that I'm filming this right now, right before Thanksgiving. And I don't know what to expect. So you might be wondering, what am I going to do if the EBMX update doesn't work? If the update doesn't work, well, first of all, if it does work, I'll likely stick with the EBMX X9000 just because I have a working controller. It does what I need it to do. But if it doesn't work, what I'm going to put in there is the new Ventus Bikes Atos, don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to go with Atos. This is their new controller that came out. It goes up to 76 kilowatts. Obviously, I'm not touching that based on my battery and my motor that's in the bike. But yeah, it's a new update for their 9600 controller. It's basically the Gen 2 of it. Looks super nice. I've seen it in person. I've installed one recently. It looks solid. There are things I actually really like about this over the EBMX platform. Obviously, you're a little bit limited with the EBMX thing when it's integrated within the OEM controls. But what's cool about this is that you have like a full BMS readout on your screen. It's connecting via Bluetooth. You have 5 power modes on tap at all times, which would kind of be nice, you know, to not have to like go into the app to ride my bike. It's not a deal breaker doing the app thing, but I don't know. I'm kind of leaning toward putting this in my bike no matter what happens. But yeah, I think if all the issues get solved between the throttle and the firmware update, I'll probably stick with it for a while. So that's going to do it for this video. If you have any comments, feedback, any ideas, problems that you've faced with EBMX products or other controllers in the past, leave it down below. We're always curious. We're always trying to learn. We're a pretty new e-moto company. We're constantly learning new information. We're problem solving a bunch of things. And I recognize that this is a really kind of complicated device to install on a bike and to get set up. And there's so many variables and there's so many things that could go wrong with it. So in no way am I trying to dissuade you from buying a EBMX X9000. I think it's a great controller. I think it's great support staff. I think they've built a really solid controller for bikes, and they have a lot of other options as well. So I think EBMX is a solid company. I think there are other companies out there who are doing things, and I'm curious about trying them as well.